On today's episode, we're going to talk to Kyla Thompson. This is a sensitive topic to all the listeners out there who
Very
have ever
sensitive.
dealt with a child loss. We're going to talk about her story. We're going to talk about her daughter and the legacy that her daughter has left behind.
Yep. So listen in because we're going to tell you how brave Bella is.
Let's talk about death, baby. Let's talk about grief and mourning. Is it argumental or existential? What's it mean to me? Let's talk about death.
Hi, I'm Benny Capaul, and I'm a funeral professional.
And I'm Nicholas Capaul, psychologist.
Hey, Nick, let's talk about death.
Let's do it.
Okay, Doc, today we're going to talk about a very touchy subject. So anybody out there who is listening to this episode that may struggle with this topic of losing a child, if this is something that will be disturbing or something you need to take a breather from, please. While you're going through it, take pauses and do what you need. Today we are very honored to have Kyla Thompson on. She is going to talk about her lovely daughter, Bella, that has died. And we're going to talk about that journey. First of all, from the bottom of Doc and I's hearts, being both parents to two lovely children for both of us, our heart goes out to you. Cannot imagine. And I say this in the funeral home all the time, and this is a forever true thing. The hardest thing I have to deal with as a professional, as a funeral director, is walking that journey with parents that have lost a child. So, Kyla, thank you for being on. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about Bella, because at the end of the day, this is what's the most important part, I would assume, even for you, is to be able to talk about Bella.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. I'm really happy to be here knowing the expertise that you guys have with grief. It makes me feel really comfortable. And then of course, just any chance to share my daughter's legacy. And then of course, just be thoughtful of, everyone out there that is also grieving my daughter.
What I would like to do, Kyla, if it's okay, is kind of give us the story of Bella.
It's hard to summarize, but if I can do my best, ask me all the questions you have. I'm probably going to miss some things. But in a nutshell, she was born with 3 very rare conditions we didn't know at the time of her birth. And they all slowly came to, we came to understand what the severity of each rare condition she had. By the time she was 2, we had realized what all 3 were, and that was dwarfism, no immune system. She's born with no immune system, which is severe combined immune deficiency. Very, very rare. Unfortunately, now our province in Canada, Saskatchewan, is now screening newborns, but wasn't the case for Bella when she was born in 2013. And lastly was her bowel disease, Hirschsprung's, which ultimately led to her needing led to bowel failure and a full bowel transplant. And we started her medical journey with the first 2 years of her life consecutively in hospital. We didn't have a children's hospital at the time, and we were constantly sent. Our specialists were looking to other specialists, and that eventually went worldwide. And so we were sent to Alberta Children's and then Toronto Sick Kids to help, her specialists understand how to help her. So we were in hospital quite a while for the start of her life, the first 2 years. She didn't get to go home till she was 2 years old. And 1 week we brought her home for the first time. And, it was a life, basically. She had all these surgeries. She had over 30 surgeries in her life. She had a bone marrow transplant, and many, many miracles. Her specialists, many, many times her life, she suffered septic shock 5 times in her life and beat it every single time. She, many, many miracles. I've had medical professionals tell me that it is a miracle she's alive. And she kept beating the odds over and over and proving that, she's a fighter and she's what bravery really is. And our socials kind of started with me wanting to prepare this world for this firecracker that was gonna, get a bust out of hospital one day. And they're gonna have a rude awakening because there was no way I was gonna let her confidence not shine through, given the hardship she's been through. And so I started sharing on my socials, just also because we never really got to see family living in hospital. And then it was really like journaling and a diary and communication and connection for me. And COVID hit, and we literally lived COVID in 2015 when Bella was going through her bone marrow transplant. So COVID hit, and that was like old hat for us. And that's kind of, when I took to TikTok and was like, all right, we have a really unique TikTok story with how that started, which we can dive into later. And then really, when Bella was about 5 or 6, we really dove into advocating for other medical families and kids like her. And then she became a philanthropist and an advocate for medical kiddos and the hospitals that saved her life. And from 2020 on was the big wait for her bowel transplant to save her life, and it did. And she received her bowel transplant, her life-saving bowel transplant, in 2023 in August of 2023. And another crazy unique story, because that bowel transplant, although she passed away almost a year after, that bowel transplant gave her another year, because there's more details into it. This is really hard to summarize, but it was a race against time to have that life-saving bowel transplant, because she had a central line, and when that central line, she had a whole vascular issue where basically she was living off of IV fluids. And if that central line quit, which was her last access, there was no chance at a bowel transplant, and that meant a very horrible way to die. And literally a week after we got the call for her bowel transplant, that line stopped working.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Lots to unpack.
no, it is such a story. It's
Yeah.
I can't even imagine as a human being experiencing that, but I can't even furthermore like think of what it's like for a parent watching their child go through that over and over and over and over and over again. Just for clarification purposes, you called yourself a medical mom. What does that mean?
I really don't know if I coined that term. Maybe I did. I'm not really sure if I should be. I hope I can get credit for it.
I want you to define it. I want
Yeah.
you as a medical mother to define that.
Yeah. I think there's lots of pieces to define that. So I gave up my entire life to be the medical caregiver for my child to keep her alive.
A mom as a caregiver.
Yeah. And I mean, my husband's a medical dad, and basically there was a lot of sacrifice, a lot of things we needed to give up in our life to live in hospital with our child, in order to, and also to bring her home and give her normalcy in life at home outside of hospital. And that meant learning how to give my child IVs. That meant learning how to change my child's ostomy, what an ostomy was,
Yeah.
how to care for her G-tube button, how to care for her central line, draw her blood, take that to the hospital, give it to the lab. It meant a lot of medical procedures, basically being a nurse at home for my child, to keep her alive.
So, as a husband of a wife who has survived breast cancer, my wife, I have not talked about this, so I'm going to throw that out there. Being in a hospital as the husband was a nightmare. I can't imagine being there for 2 years. Is that what you said? 2.5 years?
First 2 years of Bella life, like when she was born, we were air ambulance to our local, like our ICU unit for kids in Saskatoon. Like, we're from Swift Current, and then
Okay.
from there, there wasn't the specialists at the hospital at the time, so they had to then medically transfer her to Calgary, and it was surgery after surgery, and she was so rare. All of her conditions that had never been seen before, from our specialists in Canada, let alone the world. Um, and and so really, like, for Bella, this is all she knew, and she was so resilient to literally grow up in a hospital. But overall, in her 10 years of life, we spent over 1,000 nights in hospital.
Wow. If you were to ask her the last year she was alive and thriving, like what life would be for her, what would you think she would say?
I am really happy that I, without a doubt, I could say she was living a dream. Like, and a lot of that is, I'm just so thankful. Like, she got her Make-A-Wish. She had an online community and a real life family and friend community that gave their all for her every day, because they knew when she stepped outside that hospital, she was not taking any second for granted. She lived such a lively life. Everything was fun, and she was going to make it fun if you didn't think it was fun, because she's finally out of hospital and she doesn't know when she has to go back in. So she I owe so many thanks to our online community that just understood that, and they would send her gifts and give her opportunities to travel. And even though travel might have meant, like, like, very close to home, like, I'm not talking like oceans away, but giving her opportunities, for such fun and enjoyment, even though she had a life living in hospital. I'm really, really thankful that she lived such a large, happy life given her circumstances. So I know she would say she lived a life full of fun. She was like a little daredevil. She would tell me she'd try everything once.
Of
She
course.
would have so much fun with her friends. Like, she was always happy, and that was the thing too. Like, a lot of people just really never understood what she had actually been through, because you didn't really know the trauma that she had been through until you, like, sat down and talked with her, or talked with me, or really got to know our story online. And then that's what people would be, like, blown away by. They're like, holy shit, this, sorry, I can swear, but they were like,
Let her fly. From what you went through, let her, please, dear Jesus, let her fly.
but, like, people would be like, wait a second, this lively little fireball went through near death experiences more than once, lived in hospital for how many years, went through how many surgeries, and she's smiling.
Out of the 10 years she was alive, how much of that percentage, and again, I'm not asking you exact percentage here, how much percentage was she actually home?
The way I kind of gauge is, because it's really hard. I'd really need to look at the numbers. All of the books that I logged with nights in hospital, I burnt them all the day she got her bowel transplant, because it was like a release of, like, this life in hospital.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember she was uh 4 years old when we finally hit the mark of her having more days at home than in hospital.
Wow. Mm. Mm-mm-mm.
And then after that, I kind of lost track.
Hey, can I ask a weird, here's a weird question. This is probably a question you've never been asked. How do you continue a marriage during that? How do you continue a relationship outside of that?
Yeah, I mean, I often tell my husband Lyle, like, we couldn't survive without each other. Like, there was no, like, like, our life was jump and run to keep her alive. And when you have to jump and run that much, I'm giving up my career. Like, I was a teacher. There was no way I could have a full-time job, because, you know, anything that threatened her life, it was a big
So to
threat.
me,
And
you had to be there. Yeah, I get it. You
yeah,
had to be
it
there.
wasn't just a quick drive to the ER to sit and wait in the ER. that alone was threatening her life because she was immune compromised. It was on the phone with her specialists in Calgary, working out an ambulance flight straight to Calgary, no ER stop. These are how fast things could happen with her. So we were never given the chance of a normal take your kid to the ER situation. And so when I had to jump and run all the time, that meant losing my career, and that meant a lot of things I had to give up. And so, like, thank God for my husband, Lyle, who is here to keep our house like running, to keep our pets alive, all the things to just, keep our lives running, and then to keep his job. So, because we would, the expense of traveling back and forth to Calgary and Toronto and Saskatoon for over a 10-year period.
I got some questions for you. So first of all, for us, for a lot of our listeners, they're from the United States. So the one thing I do want to ask you, which has to do with it, but doesn't really have to. So you guys have universal health care. So in this situation, how much, other than driving to the place and back, was that all taken care of through the universal healthcare system for you guys? The hospital
Uh,
bills and all that?
yeah, like, so I don't pay to, we didn't have to pay to live in hospital, to stay in the hospital.
Okay.
Nothing is like, like the IVs that were given, the medication that's given inpatient in a hospital, none of that did we ever have to pay for. It's the travel, it's the accommodations with whatever city we're in.
I just wanted to clarify that for the United States um, listeners, because we all wondered those kind of things. We don't have that. The second thing I have for you is you have a son, correct?
Yes, Waylon, yeah, he's 6.
So he came in the picture when Bella was 4?
Yeah, 4 turning 5, yeah.
Okay, so at this point, my question is, how much does Waylon know about this? Or in your opinion, does he show did he show signs of like anticipatory grief, or like knowing his sister was in a lot of medical things? Did you have anything that maybe you could tell other parents, like, hey, if you see this is kind of something we dealt with our son? Like, how did the extra sibling deal with all this going on?
I think with like he's very wise, like his sister, like wise beyond his years. And so him being immersed in it, being a medical sibling from day one, right? Like she was like 4, just turned 5 when he was born. And he knew I had never had any issues with him. He understood, like, don't touch the IV bags, don't pull on our lines. Like, he lived around it. He understood it. He'd come to hospital appointments with us. I remember she would need to get her like monthly IVIG infusion, and so we'd be in the hospital for 5 hours, and he'd like fall asleep in his little wagon in the clinic with us. He was just immersed in it. So he understood her life, and he understood what being in hospital meant for his sister. And I think he's very empathetic, and I'm very proud of him for being so understanding. And I hope that helps with whoever's in his life in the future. And I'm really proud of him for that. Um, but when she passed away, I think that was so hard because he every time it seemed like she would often, there's a lot of times where he spent months with my husband's parents, with grandma and grandpa, and just an amazing relationship with them because he was with them for so long. When Bella and I would have to go to the hospital, and of course Lyle would do his best to come there when he could, apart from working. And so he understood, like, oh, okay, like, I'm gonna spend some time with grandma and grandpa, Bella's in the hospital again. But when she passed away, like, we had been gone since May, and she passed away in July. And so to him, when we came back without her, he didn't realize at first. He just thought, oh, okay, she's in hospital a little longer. And it didn't really click for him because he was just so used to it. And so it was really heartbreaking that night we had to tell him. But we had, I would say, if I could offer any advice to parents who lose a child that has a sibling, there's a couple of things that really suck about it because you really have to pull the Band-Aid off. You can't sugarcoat it. And that's the crappy part, because if you sugarcoat it, they're gonna think they're coming back.
You got to be very
Yeah,
concrete with them. Like,
yeah,
sister is not coming home again.
yeah.
Period.
Be prepared for the capacity of a 5-year-old to fully get it, because he fully got it, and it was devastating. It was
Oh yeah.
heartbreaking.
His best friend was never coming home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so heartbreaking. And also you can't say like she was sick. When you try to explain why, you can't just say she was sick, right? Because then that could get them scared about getting
Getting
sick.
sick. Yep.
So we
Yep.
had said, she passed away from a very rare condition. The doctors couldn't fix her. It was a very rare disease, like using those words, not like she got sick.
She was dying. Unfortunately, that's what it was. She was dying.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Benny
yeah,
and I we have talked about this multiple times. It is very challenging to say the right verbiage, if we're going to call it
yeah,
that, like when you're
yeah,
talking about death, especially like situations like that, traumatic situations, right? It's the same
yeah,
thing. Like, and again, I'm not comparing like apples to oranges here, but like it's the same thing with suicide, right? You have to say they died by suicide. You have to say that because it's important for people to acknowledge it's okay to talk about this. Because
yeah,
that's the other thing, right? Is like I would imagine seeing mom and dad destroyed, right? I would imagine your son seeing you guys destroyed. And for him to understand the finality, if we're going to call it that, right, of the situation, like he also has to understand, like, Sissy isn't coming home,
yeah,
and what do you need to talk about? What do you need to do? And, what can I do to help you through that, right? Because that's the other thing. I'm gonna
yeah,
again, heart goes out to you. I have no idea what that feels like, nor do I want to. To be fair, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't want to. I
yeah,
don't want to feel that.
yeah,
I have a daughter. I have an older daughter and a younger son. I have a 6-year-old and a 5-year-old at home right now. So like your situation, I can absolutely empathize to. I have no idea. I know I would be heartbroken. And
yeah.
you too have been a blessing to both of those children. And I hope you guys acknowledge that.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
I want to ask. I'm just going to ask another tough one. So I'm just thought I'd just keep adding them on to you. So I apologize, Kyla.
Okay.
But I think it's important for a lot of listeners. Are like, yeah, this is how I felt. So it's really nice that people are bringing this up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having a daughter from the beginning that deals with a lot of medical issues. I'm sure in the back of your head, I'm sure you try to be as hopeful and as compassionate and as happy,
Positive.
yeah,
right?
positive to both
Yeah.
yourself and to your husband and to Bella at the time. But I'm also sure as a human being, you also kind of knew there was a chance that you weren't going to have a long time with your daughter, right? And I'm sure through these years that you said there was consistent things that came and popped up and did this. Doc and I talk about anticipatory grief, this idea that you grieve in some ways before the grief actually occurs. Did you, in any of those times up to the end, go through that experience? And if somebody out there had a similar experience with that, anything you can tell them about possibly what you did to refocus that energy, or does this make sense? First of all, what I'm talking about, Kyla? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
It's a tough topic, but people don't realize that anticipatory grief is very real. And also it can be very, it wears you out at times. So I'm sure there's a lot of like hope and there's a lot of things that were going on in your life. And I'm sure you kept it as positive as possible, but also you're human. And so can you talk a little bit about possibly some of that you dealt with?
Yeah. I had a lot of that. before Bella got her bowel transplant, because it was like, if she doesn't get this bowel transplant, she's going to die a very horrible death. Because if you could imagine someone surviving on IV fluids and all of a sudden you cannot give them any more IV fluid. That went through my head in the 3-year wait for her bowel transplant. So, that was for, up until Bella was like 9. And I lived with that. And it was especially heightened when she was listed for a bowel transplant, and they had said, for the last 6 years, we have done everything to help your daughter's bowels, and they are in failure. There is no more helping them. If she does not get a bowel transplant, it is game over. And so it was really heightened after that. And every situation before that, all the miracles that came before that, I'd always told myself, don't talk negative out loud. And I do have a background in faith. And so it was like a way of just like amplifying my faith. Like, no, I am going to speak positive, because I'm going to have the best poker face you will ever see, because I'm not even going to think something negative is going to happen to my child outside of the surgery. It's going to help her. And then boom, we're hit with another 2 months in hospital, and then another year in hospital, and then 5 more surgeries going through it. And it's like faith is tested, and tested, but yet miracles kept coming. And so that anticipatory grief never really came really hard until she was listed for the bowel transplant. And it was like looking death straight in the face, and it's saying, gotcha. And you're sitting there, and it's like, I got no ammo left, right? I got no ammo left to say, no, you don't. And then it's that weight. And so in those years, it was 6 years of that. Like, nope, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. And then boom, this bomb is dropped. And it's like, I was so numb and so weak that it was like, I just, you kind of give up and you go through the motions. And I'm just so thankful for our healthcare system and the knowledge of our specialists, that they were doing everything to help me and Bella stay alive. And so they lifted my hope back up and lifted that anticipatory grief. And it was just like, that call's going to come. That call's going to come. She's going to get the bowel transplant. And, I'm living this life, in hospital. I've come to know 10 plus moms and dads who lose their kid along the way. And here I am with my daughter still standing and living and breathing. And so part of me was like, that anticipatory grief was also taken away, because I looked at it as like, no, that's not going to happen to my child. It's not going to happen to my child. I'm not going to think that way. Yet I'm seeing this happening left, right, and center in the space that I'm living in. And then her bowel transplant happens, and it's the most successful surgery. And she recovers faster than her specialist had ever seen. It's the most rare chance of this even happening. Like, I can't even explain the rarities. They were all just blown away that this came to happen for her. And
She was the first.
she was the first. And it's like, she had, first to have this after a bone marrow transplant. Like, there's so many firsts and so many miracles and so many positives around this transplant. It was like everything was lifted. It's finally done. She can go on to live this life. And anticipatory grief over. She got her life-saving bowel transplant. No more of that horrible what if feeling. And then unexpectedly, very unexpectedly, you're working with world-renowned specialists, and something happens that they don't expect is very hard to swallow. And then that's what started the process into her passing away from organized pneumonia.
How long was that? So she gets her transplant, everything at that time is wonderful, right? It's beautiful. It's a situation. When did she get sick at the end, and how long was that from that moment till she died?
Um, she they can't really say for sure when it started, but because a lot of this has to do with the fact, she had her own immune system, and then she had a bone marrow transplant that gave her a second immune system because it was mixed chimerisms, so she still had a little bit of hers, and then a little bit of her donor. Her donor for that came from Germany, and I'm in touch with her. She's a lovely nurse from Germany. And then to have a reaction from a solid organ, which is a third immune system,
Wow.
to have that kind of reaction 9 years post is unheard of. So for it to happen, they can't really say the exact start of it happening. But she, I, she had to be in hospital. It was like after Mother's Day. It was like middle of May. Um, we went to Saskatoon Hospital for a while. They did great with her, and they were like, you know what? Like her lungs were healing. They were getting her off of oxygen. And they're like, you know what? She just had this bowel transplant. We want to send you to your primary team at Sick Kids just to make sure she's okay. And then it just didn't stop. And so from the end of May till July 14th is when she passed away.
What did you learn about you during all this? What did you grow? How did you grow as a person?
Um I learned that um life is so freaking hard, but there is there is so much healing when you try to help other people. There's healing when you can turn pain into purpose. You got to give yourself grace, you got to give yourself patience to get there, but you can get there. And I got there. And that doesn't come without, like, I know my family and my friends and my son and my husband are the reason why I'm alive and my faith. But I learned that really turning pain into purpose is something really, honestly, you can do to keep yourself going.
So, what is your purpose today?
I I know my purpose is a lot of what my daughter taught me, and that is to help other people going through really hard things and being an advocate for those people, but actually being someone who's been there. And it's a different kind of tool than someone who hasn't. And I know with all the rarities and the extremely rare situations I've been through with my daughter, that no one else is going to have that. No one else is going to be able to sit down with that hurting person and say, I've been there. And if I can put my pain aside and do that for them, it's going to help both of us in the long run. And I want to be able to do that for people because I know it can heal me bit by bit too.
So, you are an educator. Before
Yeah.
all this, you are an educator, right?
Yeah.
So, if I can give you any word of wisdom to leave with us today, it is to take your education love and just
Yeah.
just make that a grief education, because I think
Yeah.
you could be fantastic, fabulous, and bridging those two together. Because at least in the United States, and I don't know about Canada very well, so I'm again, to the Canadian listeners out there, I'm not a Canadian, so I don't know. But in the United States, we do terrible at grief. We don't talk about it. We don't discuss it. We struggle with being a part of it. We want to avoid it. I don't know how you guys are over there in Canada, but if one thing I can give you is that your story is important. It's so important for people to hear and for people to acknowledge that love, that compassion, that hope, that faith, whatever we want to call it, right? There is something about you because of the experience that you have gone through that you can speak to that no one else will ever be able to.
Yeah.
For you to be able to talk about this with us, these two jokers, right? And I apologize, we are jokers. It's amazing, and I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed to have you on the show. I love your daughter, and I never met her. Okay, I'm gonna throw it out there. I love your daughter, and I never met her. And I think
Aw.
everybody on listening to this episode is gonna say the same thing, right?
Yeah, I would love for people, I know Instagram and TikTok, you gotta scroll and scroll and scroll, but I mean, if people want to reminisce and go through videos, I kept them all up there. Bella and I had so much fun on Instagram and TikTok. It was a source of joy for both of us. And so I keep all of our videos and our TikToks up there, and it's all on my account, which is at Kyla CT. Um, and I'm on YouTube as well at Kyla CT. Facebook is Bella Brave. That's the OG. It's where I started most of my
The
yeah,
original.
original. If you want to go really deep, you can try and search Isabella's mustard seed at blogspot.ca. I blogged for a little while.
That's amazing. I would
I
love to see
did.
the original, the OG.
It's the OG.
Yeah.
Hopefully Blogspot still shares, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. And then of course my husband and I started our podcast in November, Beyond Brave. And we really want to continue to share this and keep talking about it and hope, to help other people that really need to hear it.
And then the last question I have for you, and then I'm gonna let Benny talk here because I've been kind of what do you call that? Monopolizing, and I apologize.
It's okay. I'm used to it.
There's just a lot of heart and soul here. What would be your one quote, if we could quote you, to be anybody who is grieving a traumatic loss? What would you tell them?
I would tell them that I hope they can feel that the love from my heart to theirs to help them stand up again, to give them the support and the energy they need to keep going. I hope that any words that Bella and I have both, shared through our socials supports them and gives them the love that they need. And of course, as Bella would say, no matter what you're going through, just always stay brave.
Ah, that's gonna hit me hard tonight.
Well, I mean, obviously, this whole episode is dedicated to Bella for sure. But I do got a question for you as a funeral director, as a
Yeah.
mortician funeral director. If you don't mind me asking, how did you memorialize Bella after the death?
Oh, I think we did it. My husband and I wanted to do a few things. The number one thing we really wanted to carry on her legacy was really important to us. And so starting the podcast was that way of memorializing her. And so we started with our very first episode starts with my eulogy and what I spoke about her at her funeral. And then from there we go into stories and memories, and we discuss grief and just wanting to carry on her legacy in a way that advocates for other grieving parents. Um, of course, we want to continue on advocating for medical families, and sharing her story online, and just keeping her light and her bravery light and message alive, and sharing that in any way we can. We are hoping to start a legacy fund for her soon. We're working with a company to get that going so we can support different initiatives every year. Maybe hopefully get like different scholarships for kiddos that or students that are going into anything from nursing to GI specialists, transplant specialists, that sort of thing. We want to carry on her legacy that way as well.
Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. Because Bella became quite a star of her own through social media, what is something that either happened during some of these videos or maybe after she died that came across through a DM or through a comment or something that really caught you off guard that maybe you would like to talk about?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I can pick just one, but that's the thing for me. The DMs, the messages, particularly my Instagram, I have from other moms, parents, other kiddos, teenagers that message me and they're like, Bella taught me to be brave. I could get through this because of her. I saw her and she meant the world to me because she handled it in this way. Her courage gives me courage. And just seeing the way she's taught this world to be brave. She received like a Medal of Honor, King Charles honorary medal. The full name is forgetting me, but she received that because of the advocacy and the philanthropy. She put Canada, she put Saskatchewan on the mark for the advocacy she did, and just being recognized for that, receiving a medal for that. Just these are the things that matter. Our message, her ability to teach kids to be brave and to say, you know what, Mom, I can get through this because Bella did. Bella taught me to be brave. I can be brave like Bella. And to get those little messages, and they might be like, I'm a silent follower or I don't post a lot, but I needed you to know. Those matter to me. That's where I'm just like, thank you. That's healing me and knowing that her legacy, her message continues on that way.
Okay, final
Huge.
question for me. I had one more. I thought about. So I have a lot of grieving mothers and fathers who I've spoke to in my experience, and a lot of them keep their child's room almost like a
Shrine?
Yeah.
tomb. I want to say tomb. And I mean that in the most professional sense of that word. I go there to talk. I go there to feel. I go there to connect, I guess would be the better word. I'm just curious. And you don't have to answer this if you don't feel comfortable with this. Do you still have her room that way?
Yes. And in a very unique way. I'm very fortunate that um so like being a medical mom,
Yeah.
Bella's room the way it is now is what she dreamed it to be. It's what she wanted it to be.
Ooh.
She designed it, and I had the Brave Spaces team. So a friend that I came to know reached out to me, and she's like, she met us online, and she's like, this is what I do, and she reached out and wanted to get her team together to make over Bella and Waylon's dream bedrooms.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
in doing that, and they did that last May, right before Bella had to go to the hospital. So she actually got to be a part of making her room, and I put on videos of her helping create it, but she never got to see the final
of the final
room
draft or
in
whatever. Yeah.
person,
Mm.
which a lot of people would think that must be heartbreaking, but I did get to show it to her in videos and pictures while she was in hospital, and that gave her so much joy because she's like, I'm gonna come home to this room. This is gonna be my dream room. It's actually happening. It happened, and it gave her a lot of like excitement and joy in hospital.
Right.
And then just knowing that they worked with her from the
Mm.
start, like I have all the pictures she drew and the
She
colors
was
she
the
chose, all the
artist.
colors.
She was the
Yeah,
artist. Yeah,
it
that's
was her
amazing.
dream. Yeah, it was her dream room, and so being in there and having it that way versus um this was the bed that, she went through painful procedures on, and this is where her IV pole was, and this was like, you know, her old room had so many harsh medical memories that this new room, although she never got to be in it, it's
Would
fresh and it's
be
new and it's what she dreamed of.
the perfect room for her.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it's her design, it's her choice. Every bit of it is her choice. Yeah.
psychologist here.
Yeah.
What's the feeling when you walk into that room?
Oh, it's her love and her light and joy. It's not devastation and sadness. It's, oh, she loves this. It's like I go in there and I'm just like, she loved every bit of this, and so I can feel her love.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What is one tradition that you have started since she's died that is like a personal tradition to your family?
Yeah, it's very important to us. Like, so we every night at bedtime, Waylon, my son, and my husband and I, we always pray, and we always have a chat with Bella.
Oh,
And yeah, and Waylon tells her about his day, and we say I love you, and we tell her all the things we were thinking of and all the things we did, and we talk about memories and what we think she would say, and we tell her we love her every night. And we go to her gravesite quite often, but my little guy, he always says, he's like, Mom, we don't have to be here to talk to her. We can talk to her anytime. We can say I love you anytime, anywhere. But we just make sure we do it every night before we go to bed.
Well, I want to say personally from my heart, Bella, I hope all is well up there. Hope that you're looking down on us and laughing and joking.
Yeah.
You
Stop crying,
blessed,
Mom.
you blessed a lot of people's hearts. So that's for me. Dr. Nick, there you go.
It's amazing what this podcast has done, the people we've talked to, and the better it has made both of us as professionals and as human beings. So thank you so much, Kyla, from all of us at Let's Talk About Death. Thank you for telling your story.
Kyla, are you open? Just last thing. Are you open to talking?
I thought that was your
like,
last question.
I know. I always have more. I apologize. Are you open to talking to mothers that are going through this? Like, I don't know where you're at in your grief journey.
It's crazy you say that, because I just thought of this today. I would love to have more guests on our podcast, and I was thinking about it today, and I'm like, a lot of it has been my husband and I and our conversations, and a couple of guests, friends that I know. But I was thinking today, I was like, I want to put a call out there to anybody that has a brave story, and I want to do like a series of like, tell me your brave story. Tell me how you put pain into purpose. And I want to invite anyone and everyone, and especially any medical moms or grieving bereaved moms, to have a space to share their story. I would love to do that. Whether, with you guys, I want to have another chat with you guys, because I know there's a lot of like, there's so many questions I have for you with your expertise.
Oh my gosh. Just remember, next doctor's going to say he has one question for you. He's going to have 36 more.
I have 36 on the back burner. I apologize. I want to be.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I 100% would love that.
Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts, from all of our listeners here. Like, sharing your story is amazing. Your daughter is amazing. She will always have a legacy, and you are her legacy.
And I want to say that bravery didn't come out of nowhere. It came from you and your husband and her brother. So thank you for being brave. I think it's an absolute wonderful thing what you're doing. Please keep it going, because it's going to help somebody.
And Waylon, is it Waylon Jennings?
No, it's Waylon William, but
I mean, was he named after him? I had that in my mind.
Is it the Whalers too? Isn't that like a hockey team in Canada?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whalers. The
Whalers.
used to be.
You guys are the naming of our children is so funny, and Lyle makes fun of me every time I tell this story. But like, I chose Bella's name Isabella. It stuck with me.
Beautiful.
And it's funny, like you guys might get a kick out of this, but I used to work in a cemetery during my summers.
There you
And
go.
and
You
so
know?
like when I was like 19, I was mowing past hundreds of gravestones every summer.
Yep.
And the one that stood out to me was this gravestone with big capital letters, Isabella.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm like, that is the most beautiful name. And then it stuck with me up until I had my daughter, and I'm like, it's gonna be Isabella. And then because I got to name Bella, I was like, all right, Lal, you get to name our next kiddo. And he went with Waylon, and I loved it. I loved it. And he didn't.
Too. I love it too. I just was curious where he got it.
He just looking through names, and really liked that one. And I was like, I do too.
Beautiful, awesome. I was just curious. I had to ask.
It's a
I had to
very
ask.
powerful stoic name.
It very is.
Yeah,
I name my son Roman, and it's got that like strong strength thing.
See, that's nuts. The name I chose Roman.
Mm-hmm.
And the night before we had Waylon, Lal's like, no, I want to change it to Waylon.
Ah,
There you
interesting.
go.
He's like, it's close to naming him Roman.
Connections.
We both
connections.
We both have a son and a daughter. I named my daughter Veda.
Yeah.
So Veda and Roman.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's very pretty.
Veda's off My Girl, the movie about the funeral director home. Veda is the little girl in that movie.
Yeah.
It's a wild story because my wife wanted that for her daughter's name before she ended up knowing that she was going to marry a funeral director. So
I wanted
wow.
Mildred. I wanted Mildred for my daughter, but I got beat out because I was told that that's too old of a name. So it is Amelia. It's Amelia, but we got Millie. So she got Mildred in there too. So we both won, I guess.
Oh,
I love my daughter, so we're good. We're good.
that's adorable. That is very adorable. That's adorable for like an old name.
I do. I love Mildred. I love it.
Cute.
My great grandmother, that was her name, and I miss her to the day I die. Yep.
Oh,
well, with that being said, we should close up shop here. So thank you so much, Kyla, for being on our podcast. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for telling Bella and her brave story. Please, everybody, go out and check out the podcast, check out the TikToks, watch some of these videos. They're going to make your day. Even if you're having just a crappy day, go watch these videos, man, and you'll smile. You can't leave that without smiling. If you have any questions or thoughts, or if you're a mother that's struggling and need to know who to talk to, or maybe you have some questions for Doc and I, please reach out to us at letstalkaboutdeathpod@gmail.com. Please send this podcast out to any mother maybe who's dealing with some grief that would like to hear some stories, or maybe just want to hear something that makes sense to them. Also, review us, put the stars in, like us, send us out to people. And Doc, as we leave, if you are not talking about death,
then you are not being brave.